Mr. Klassen here. Good to see you and welcome. Welcome to another instructional video inside Mr. Klassen's band room. In this video, I'm going to give a brief explanation and overview of the dreaded clarinet pinky keys. This will be part 1 of clarinet pinky keys. And then in part 2, which will be a separate video, I will try and apply some of what we've learned to a chromatic scale. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so the first thing we want to talk about when it comes to pinky keys is right hand versus left hand pinky keys. So for the right hand down here, try and bring it nice and close, you can see there are 4 pinky keys all played with the right hand pinky. Okay, so we have the top inside, the top outside, the bottom inside, and the bottom outside. Each one also has a specific name based on which note it plays, but I refer to them that way as top inside, top outside, bottom inside, and bottom outside. For the left hand, over here, there are 3 pinky keys, and then this is also a pinky key, but it has a different function. It's sort of a specific key, so we're just going to talk about these 3 here. And so these are all played with the left hand pinky. So here we have the outside, the middle, which is this one kind of hanging to the side here, and the inside. Outside, middle, and inside. Okay, so right hand pinky can play all these. Left hand pinky can play all of these 3. Whoops. It's not that there's 7 different notes. There's actually corresponding keys, and there's just 2 different ways to play them. One with the right hand pinky and one with a left hand pinky, and we'll explain why in a moment. So let's demonstrate now how there's corresponding keys between the right and left hand pinkies. So right now we're going to skip the top inside just for a minute, and we're going to move to the bottom inside. Bottom inside is the low F key, and it corresponds to the left hand middle pinky key here. So I can play that low F 2 different ways. Same note, but 2 different ways to play it. Okay, let's move on to the right hand bottom outside pinky key. And that corresponds to the left hand inside. And that's the low E. So I can play it 2 different ways again. Same note, but 2 different ways to play it. Let's move to the right hand top outside, and that corresponds to the left hand outside, and that is the low F sharp. So again, 2 different ways to play the same note. Now let's go back to this top inside of the right hand, which we skipped before. This is the low A flat, or G sharp, and this one is special. Since there's 4 keys here and only 3 on the left hand, this one does not have a corresponding left hand key, so there's only one way to play that specific note. So we'll explain this in a little bit, but it's unique because there's only one way. So whenever you see that note, you know you have to play it that way. If you see one of these other notes, you know that you actually have a choice between which way you want to play it. So here's the low G sharp. I should quickly mention that all of these keys, so the pinky keys we've been talking about, I've been playing the low versions, the low notes. They all have corresponding high notes as well with the use of the register key. Those of you who have been playing high notes already, you know what the register key is. And if you use the register key, it's the same principles apply to the notes that they play in the high register, but the notes just have different names then. So now we're going to talk about what the typical fingerings might be for these different notes. We've talked already that you have different choices when you see these notes because there's different ways to play them, but there's kind of a first fingering that you should go for if possible, when you're playing. And then there's alternate fingerings as well, the other versions that work too, but maybe you're only going to play those if you really need to in a specific passage. So you're seeing on the screen now a diagram kind of showing you some of these typical fingerings, and I'll demonstrate those now. So let's start with the low F or the high C. So that's this one here, low F, high C. This would be our typical fingering, the right hand pinky key. Okay, the right hand bottom inside. So I'll play the low F that way, and then the high C. Okay, then we would go next to our low E and high B, and for that one, our typical is going to be actually with the left hand pinky with the inside. Okay, you can see that when I push that one down, it also pushes in this low F or high C key with the right hand. It does that automatically. It's okay to keep your finger on there too, so you actually have both these in. But this would be the typical one to use, the left hand. And that allows you to slur really easily between low E and low F, or high B and high C. All you need to do is this, and you're slurring between notes. Okay, so here's the low B, or the low E and the high B. That would be your typical fingering. Okay, so let's go then to the low F sharp or G flat. So for this one, my typical fingering would be the left hand, again going to the left hand, but this time using the outside pinky key here. Okay, so everything down plus that one. And there I played the low F sharp and then the high C sharp. Okay. Then we go to that last one that was the unique one. So for the unique one, we had the low G sharp or A flat, and that would be the high D sharp or E flat. And that one we can only play the one way. So our fingering for that is going to be with the right hand top inside pinky key. It'll sound like this. And remember, there's only one way to play those notes, with just that right top inside pinky key. Another important point here about pinky keys is how we can play smoothly with pinky keys. Anytime in our playing we want to try and be more fluent and more smooth, and one of the ways we can do that with pinky keys is by alternating. What I mean by alternating is going right and then left, as opposed to doing two different notes in a row, both with the right hand or both with the left hand. Allow me to demonstrate this a little bit. So, for example, say we wanted to move from low F to low E, back and forth. So we could decide to go low F, this key right here, and then low E, this key right here, both right-hand keys. We could do that. It would be correct notes, but it would be very hard to slur because you have to pick up your pinky to go back. So it would be very hard to slur that. But if we went low F to low E with the left hand and alternated rights and lefts, it'd be a lot smoother. Okay, here's just using the right first. And then alternating. You can see that right and then left is a lot smoother and more fluent. This is why it's important to know, to know that both pinkies can do certain notes and to be able to switch between them. Similarly, if we wanted to move from, let's say, high C to high C sharp, we could use both right, and we could go from C to C sharp, but that would be very difficult to do smoothly. Instead, what we should do is we should go C to left hand C sharp and alternate between them, and it'll be easier to be smooth. So here's me trying to do high C to C sharp with just my right hand. And then alternating. So it's a lot smoother. So this is why we want to always try our best to alternate rights and lefts as much as possible when we're using the pinky keys, rather than getting stuck on using one type of pinky key for one note. Rather, we should know all of them and be able to be flexible in using one or the other so that we can alternate and make passages sound smooth. Okay everybody, that was part one of clarinet pinky keys. I hope it was helpful for you and that you learned something about the pinky keys. If you're ever unsure about the various fingerings, also be sure to consult your fingering chart, which will be a great guide for you. Part 2 of Clarinet Pinky Keys will be coming up pretty soon, and that's where I'm going to try and apply what we've learned to a chromatic scale. So hopefully that'll be helpful for you as well. Watch for that. As always, feel free to contact me if you have any questions or if you have ideas for future instructional videos. I'm always happy to hear from you. Thank you very much again. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon, folks.